My fiancée demanded, "Get on your knees and beg for my forgiveness." I agreed. In front of her friends, I got on one knee and said, "I beg you to tell them about the $20,000 debt you've been hiding from me. I'm begging for the truth." I am a financial analyst. My world is one of numbers, data points, and the logical assessment of risk. I manage multi-million-dollar portfolios for my clients, and my success is built on a simple principle: the numbers don't lie. For the past 3 years, I believe my relationship with my fiancée Marie was a blue-chip investment, stable, reliable, with a high potential for long-term growth. I was wrong. I had failed to conduct proper due diligence. The first sign of a critical market downturn came 2 weeks ago. Marie went on a girls' weekend to Las Vegas with 3 of her friends. We have a shared credit card for joint household expenses, with a clear and mutually agreed-upon budget. The Vegas trip was not a joint household expense. However, when the credit card statement arrived in my inbox, it was riddled with charges from Vegas: 5-star hotel suites, $1,000 bar tabs, tickets to a pop star's residency. She had spent over $7,000 in 3 days. I approached the situation calmly. I waited until that evening, sat her down, and showed her the statement. I didn't yell. I just asked her to explain the discrepancy. Her reaction was not one of remorse. It was a volcanic eruption of defensive rage. She accused me of being a controlling bean counter, of trying to police her friendships, of not wanting her to have any fun. She twisted my calm, factual question about a budget violation into a personal attack on her character. The argument ended with her storming out of the room, calling me a joyless accountant who wouldn't know fun if it audited him. The fight, and her bizarre, disproportionate reaction, was a significant red flag. As a financial analyst, when I see a red flag in an investment, I don't get emotional. I dig deeper. I decided it was time to do a full, comprehensive audit of our combined financial health before we legally merged our lives in marriage. This wasn't about snooping. It was about risk management. We had agreed to be transparent with each other when we got engaged. I was simply verifying the data. I used a standard credit monitoring service that we had both signed up for last year when we were considering applying for a mortgage. It allows for a shared view of both our credit reports and scores. I pulled the reports. Mine was exactly as I expected: clean, organized, with a high score. Then I opened hers, and I felt the floor drop out from under me. It wasn't just the shared credit card. She had 2 other credit cards in her own name, both maxed out to their limits. And then there was the big one: a high-interest personal loan for $20,000 from an online lender, taken out 8 months ago. She had never mentioned it. The monthly payments on her secret debt were more than her entire contribution to our household. The numbers didn't lie. She wasn't just bad with money. She was drowning in a secret ocean of debt, and she was hiding it from me while simultaneously spending my money with reckless abandon. The fight about the Vegas trip wasn't about her wanting to have fun. It was the desperate spending of someone who was already so far in the red that a little more didn't seem to matter. For a few days I didn't know what to do. The betrayal was so profound, so calculated. While I was meticulously planning our financial future, she was hiding a catastrophic liability that would have legally become half mine the moment we said, "I do." She, meanwhile, had been giving me the silent treatment. Then yesterday she sent me a text. "My friends are coming over tonight. We need to talk about what happened. You need to fix this." I knew what it was: an ambush, an intervention where I would be painted as the villain and pressured into apologizing. I thought about refusing, but then a better, colder, more logical idea began to form. I had been planning to confront her privately, but she had chosen to make her stand in front of her friends. Fine. I would accept the venue she had chosen. I simply texted back, "I agree. I will be there." She thought I was walking into an ambush. She had no idea I was the one bringing the weapon. Update 1. The intervention was scheduled for 7 o'clock. I arrived at our apartment to find Marie and her 3 friends, the Vegas crew, sitting in a semicircle on the sofa. It was staged like a corporate tribunal. They all had grim, serious expressions on their faces. Marie sat in the middle, looking like a wronged queen, her friends arrayed around her like a royal court. I closed the door behind me and stood before them. The air was thick with righteous indignation. "Alex," Marie began, her voice cold and formal. "We're here to talk about your behavior. Your controlling attitude about money is damaging our relationship. You embarrassed me, and you ruined my trip. My friends are very concerned about me, about us." Her friend, a woman named Chloe, who I knew was the ringleader, chimed in. "We just feel like you're not supportive of Marie's happiness, Alex," she said, her tone dripping with fake concern. "A real partner would celebrate her friendships, not audit them." I listened patiently as they took turns diagnosing my various character flaws for the next 10 minutes. I was unspontaneous. I was a killjoy. I didn't understand the importance of female bonding. It was a masterclass in coordinated gaslighting. When they were finally done, I just nodded. "I understand," I said quietly. "You're right. I was wrong to question the spending. I let my analytical nature get in the way of your happiness, Marie. I'm sorry." The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The tension eased. Marie's stern expression softened, replaced by a smug, victorious look. She had won. The bean counter had been put in his place. But she wasn't done. She wanted total surrender. "An apology isn't enough, Alex," she said, her voice full of a new, cruel confidence. "You publicly embarrassed me by questioning me about this. Now, you need to show me that you're truly sorry. I want you to get on your knees, right here in front of my friends, and beg for my forgiveness." Her friends looked at her, a little shocked, but also intrigued. This was the ultimate power play, a demand for my complete and utter humiliation. I looked at her. I looked at her friends, their faces a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. I thought about the $20,000 of hidden debt. I thought about the lies. I thought about the future she was trying to steal from me, and I smiled. A calm, genuine smile. "Okay," I said. I walked to the center of the room, right in front of the sofa, and I got down on one knee. Marie leaned back, a triumphant smirk spreading across her face. This was everything she wanted. I looked up at her, my expression sincere. "Marie," I began, my voice clear and carrying through the silent room. "You're right. I should beg." I paused, letting the moment hang in the air. "I beg you to tell your friends the truth," I said, my voice ringing with a new hard edge. "I'm begging you to tell them about the $20,000 high-interest personal loan you've been hiding from me for the last 8 months. I'm begging you to explain to them the 2 maxed-out credit cards you failed to disclose." The smirk vanished from Marie's face, replaced by a mask of pure, ghostly white horror. Her friends stared at her, their jaws slack. "I'm begging for you to tell them the truth about your financial situation," I continued, my voice rising with righteous power. "The truth about why you felt it was okay to spend $7,000 of our joint money in Vegas while you were secretly drowning in debt. I'm begging you to explain how you were planning on telling me about these liabilities before we got married, and they legally became half mine." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a neatly folded piece of paper. It was a printout of her credit report summary. "I'm begging for the truth, Marie," I said, my voice dropping to a quiet, devastating conclusion. "Because as a financial analyst, I can no longer, in good conscience, recommend investing in a partnership with such a significant, undisclosed, and catastrophic level of risk." I stood up. I looked around at the stunned, speechless faces of her friends. Then I looked at Marie, who looked like her entire world had just been vaporized. I walked over to the small table by the door where we kept our keys. I took the engagement ring off my finger, the ring I had paid for, and placed it gently on the table. "This investment is now officially liquidated," I said. Then I walked out the door and closed it softly behind me, leaving them in the deafening silence of the truth. Update 2. The immediate aftermath of my apology was a beautiful, chaotic implosion. I didn't stick around to witness it, but my phone began to tell the story within minutes of my departure. The first wave was from Marie, a torrent of voicemails and texts shifting wildly in tone. The first was pure, incoherent rage. Then came the pleading, tearful messages claiming it was all a huge misunderstanding and that she was going to tell me. Finally came the accusations, blaming me for ruining her life and humiliating her out of spite. I didn't respond to a single one. I just created a special folder in my inbox for her messages and went about my evening. The second wave came from her friends, the Vegas crew. Their messages were a fascinating study in shifting loyalties. The ringleader, Chloe, sent me a long, angry text accusing me of being a cruel, manipulative monster for airing Marie's private business. I decided to reply to that one. I sent her a single simple text back. It was a screenshot of the credit report summary, showing the loan and the maxed out cards. I added one sentence of my own. This is the private business she was going to make my legal responsibility without my knowledge. Don't contact me again. That one screenshot was like a neutron bomb. It didn't just end the conversation, it vaporized her friend's entire argument. Chloe never replied, and the angry texts from the other friends stopped immediately. Facts, it turns out, are a very effective antidote to manufactured outrage. A few days later, I received an email from a different one of her friends, a woman named Sarah who had been at the intervention. Her tone was completely different. She apologized for her part in the ambush. She said that after I left, Marie had a complete meltdown and that the truth had eventually come out. She said none of them had any idea about the debt and that Marie had lied to them too, telling them that I was being financially controlling over a small amount of money. Sarah ended the email by saying, "You dodged a bullet, Alex. I'm sorry, we were a part of it." That email confirmed my strategy had been the correct one. A private confrontation would have allowed Marie to control the narrative, to lie to her friends and paint me as the villain. A public revelation in front of the very people she had enlisted as her allies made the truth undeniable. She had nowhere to hide. The final piece of this chapter was dealing with the practicalities. Our apartment lease was in both of our names. I had my lawyer draft a formal letter to her and the landlord stating my intention to vacate the premises at the end of the lease period in 2 months. The letter also included a formal demand that she be responsible for her half of the rent for the remaining time, as well as a bill for her half of the $7,000 Vegas trip, which was charged to a joint liability credit card. She had wanted a fight about money. Now she had one. Only this time it would be governed by legal contracts and hard numbers, not by tears and emotional manipulation. It was a fight she had absolutely no chance of winning. Final update, it has been 6 months since I got on one knee and begged for the truth. The dust has settled, the accounts have been closed, and I have a clear and final assessment of the damages, none of which I'm happy to report are mine. The 2 months it took for the apartment lease to end were tense. Marie, legally and financially cornered, eventually agreed to pay her share. I imagine it was a struggle for her. She had to take on extra freelance work, and I heard, borrow money from her parents who were reportedly furious about the secret debt I had exposed. She moved out at the end of last month. I was there with the landlord for the final walkthrough. She refused to look at me, her face a mask of sullen resentment. She had lost her fiancé, her financial security blanket, and the respect of most of her friends. Her grand power play had cost her everything. But I was still curious about the debt itself. $20,000 is a lot of money to borrow in secret. A few weeks ago, I got my answer. The same friend, Sarah, who had apologized to me, reached out one last time. She said she felt I deserved to know the full story. She told me that the $20,000 loan wasn't from a single catastrophic event. It was the culmination of years of reckless, impulsive spending. She had a shopping addiction she had hidden from everyone. The loan was a desperate attempt to consolidate her maxed-out credit cards so she could keep her credit score just high enough to avoid suspicion. The Vegas trip wasn't an anomaly. It was her standard operating procedure. She was living a life she couldn't afford, and her plan was for me, her future husband, to unknowingly take on the role of her personal bailout fund. My controlling nature was simply me trying to instill a basic level of financial discipline that threatened to expose her entire house of cards. Hearing that final piece of the puzzle was liberating. It removed any lingering shred of doubt I might have had. My decision wasn't just about a single lie. It was about escaping a future of guaranteed financial and emotional ruin. I have since moved into a new apartment, one that is entirely my own. It's smaller, but it's peaceful. My finances are secure, my future is clear, and my life is free of the chaotic drama that I had mistaken for passion. The engagement ring now sits in a safe deposit box. I suppose I'll sell it one day, but for now it serves as a reminder. It's a reminder that love, like any good investment, requires transparency and due diligence. It's a reminder that the numbers never lie. Marie demanded that I get on my knees and beg for her forgiveness. In a way, I'm glad she did. It was the catalyst that forced the truth into the light. She wanted to see me humiliated. Instead, she showed me exactly who she was, a critical liability disguised as a long-term asset. And as any good financial analyst will tell you, the smartest move you can ever make is to cut your losses and divest.